I'm Anil Kumar, and in this video we'll try to understand average speed and average velocity. When we talk about rates of change, in many questions we are asked this question about what is the average speed and what is the average velocity. We should have a very clear idea about their similarities and differences. So we'll talk about average speed and average velocity. Can you tell me what is the difference between the two? Are they sometimes same, always same, or cannot be same? These are the questions which you should think about. Now let us first try to define what these terms are. Average speed is actually rate of change of distance. Whenever we talk about speed, we are talking about rate of change of distance. And when we talk about rate of change of velocity, we are talking about, whenever we are talking about average velocity, we are talking about rate of change of displacement. Let me write down these terms very clearly for you. Now, what is the distance and displacement difference? That is another question now which comes up. So can you tell me what is the difference between change of distance and change of displacement? Let's take an example. Let us say you go for a walk and you cover a distance of, so say you walk a distance of, let us say, 7 kilometers in 2 hours. So if you walk 7 kilometers in 2 hours, then what is the average speed? Now here in this particular case, since you are walking 7 kilometers in 2 hours, average speed, I should say, will be equals to distance divided by time taken, right? Because the change in distance is 7 kilometers, right? So we say change in distance over change in time. So 7 kilometers over 2 hours, right? So the average speed will be 7 kilometers in 2 hours, or I'll divide this by 2 and then write 3.5. So let me write down this as equals to 3.5 kilometers per hour. So that becomes the average speed for this distance covered. Now when we talk about velocity, we are actually checking the displacement. Now here position is very important. Position here means from where did you start and where did you end. So let us say you start from this point and go round and then come back to the same point and the whole distance traveled is 7 kilometers. Then in that case, if you start from the same point and end there, in that case, what is the change in displacement? Well, you started from a position and ended at the same position. So in this case, the velocity will be treated as 0. Since the change in displacement is 0, time taken is of course 2 hours, so we get the average change of displacement is 0, and therefore the rate of change of velocity in this case becomes 0. Well, you could have taken an example where you start from a point and go straight for 7 kilometers. In that case, if you are going in a positive direction, normally we consider north or east as positive. In that case, your velocity will be same as the average speed. However, if you travel kind of in a different path, for example, you go up and then you come down, in that case, your average velocity will be much smaller than the average speed. Since average speed is change in distance, distance covered is like going up and coming down, total distance. However, the change in position is only from here to this place, right? So which is much smaller. A side of a triangle is always less than sum of sides of the other two. So what you find always is that the average rate of change of distance is greater than or equal to the average rate of change of velocity. So that is very important to understand. Now here is a question for you. What I will do here is I'll sketch one diagram for you, And let us say we are considering walking along a straight line. And let's say this is time in minutes. And on this side, we have distance, you may say displacement in meters, right? So let us say you start from your home, travel towards the school, stop for some time, right? And then return back to get something, and then go back to the path and reach the school, right? So in this case, what is going to be your average speed and average velocity at different instance of time? You can calculate that, right? So to give you some values here, let us say this value here is 4. So for 4 minutes you walk straight, and then you stand there for 3 minutes, that is 7. And then for a minute you rush backwards, and then you follow the path towards the school and reach the school after, let us say, another 3 minutes, let's say 11. So you take total of 11 minutes to reach the school, going straight forward for 4 meters, and then standing there for 3 meters, returning for let us say some distance. Let me put these distances as 10, and then let us say returning back by half the time, 5, and then going up, and let this be 11. Okay, so if I give you this kind of a displacement time graph, then the exercise for you is to find the average speed and average velocity in different sections of this path. So let me name these sections for you so that it becomes simpler to answer the question. So let us say we start from O, which is point A, then we go to point B, C, D, and E, right? So in these answers which you calculate, you'll find that along CD, the average change in displacement is negative, since you moved the final distance, displacement, position I should say, is lesser than the initial, right? So, and time is always positive as you move forward. Now, so here the velocity is negative, but average speed will always be positive or 0, right? So it cannot be negative, right? So in some paths you'll find that the velocity and average speed are same, but not in all. So that is kind of important. And overall, you can also find what is the overall average velocity and average speed, and you'll find that they are fairly different. Now the reason is because of their definition. Remember that average speed is rate of change of distance, and average velocity is rate of change of displacement. I hope that helps to answer most of the questions in this chapter. Thank you and all the best.